funny thing about silence. It isn't really silent. It hums, it breathes. It presses against you like a weight on your chest. That's the kind of silence we're in right now. A pause. A calm. The kind of calm that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Because deep down you know, calm never lasts. The quiet before the storm is never a gift. It's a warning. And if you're smart, you take it for what it is. The silence before chaos is never safety. It's a warning. You know how people love to convince themselves that quiet means everything is fine, that the absence of noise equals peace. That's the greatest trick they play on themselves. They cling to the silence like a blanket, pretending it's warmth when in reality, it's the coldest sign of what's to come. Silence has teeth. It grins at you from the dark, waiting for the moment you finally let your guard down. And yet, most never see it for what it is. They let the hush lull them into a false sense of security. That's why they always look so surprised when everything falls apart. They thought the quiet was mercy, when it was really the drumbeat of inevitability, played so low they refused to hear it. The truth is, chaos never arrives unannounced. It always sends its shadow ahead of time. It gives you whispers, strange little feelings in the pit of your stomach, nights when you can't sleep and don't know why, days when everything feels too still. That's not coincidence, that's the warning. That's life leaning in, whispering, pay attention. But people don't. They smother those whispers with distractions, scrolling, drinking, pretending, laughing too loud to drown out what they already know inside. And then when the storm comes, they act shocked, betrayed even, as if they weren't given every chance to prepare. That's the beauty and the cruelty of silence. It's a mirror. It forces you to face yourself, your fears, your weaknesses, everything you've been trying to hide under the noise of life. But instead of listening, people scramble to fill it. They can't stand the quiet because the quiet makes them feel exposed. So they waste the only warning they were given, and they pay the price for it later. You see, the silence doesn't exist to comfort you. It exists to challenge you. It's there to test whether you can sit in it, feel its weight, and understand what it's telling you. Think about it. Right before a storm, the air goes still. Animals scatter, the wind holds its breath, even the world itself seems to stop moving. And yet people stand there, staring at the sky, saying, how peaceful. Peaceful? No, that stillness is pressure. It's the moment before the breaking point. It's nature telling you that something violent is brewing just out of sight. But most ignore it, and when the first crash of thunder hits, they scramble in panic. But if you had listened to the silence, you would have already been ready. That's the problem with most. They're addicted to comfort. They want the silence to mean they're safe, because safety is easy. Safety lets them sleep without worry, wander without purpose, live without urgency. But silence isn't safety. It's a riddle, a signal. It's there to separate the ones who can sense the shift in the air from the ones too busy convincing themselves everything will be fine. And when the chaos hits, you'll see the difference in their eyes. One group stands frozen, shocked that the ground could collapse so suddenly. The other, they saw it coming. They used the silence to sharpen themselves. They knew the warning wasn't a lullaby, but a challenge. That's what makes the silence dangerous. It doesn't announce itself as a threat. It creeps in soft, lulls you, makes you comfortable. That's why it destroys so many. Because if chaos came screaming, everyone would prepare. If disaster knocked on your door, you'd be ready. But silence doesn't knock. It waits outside, patiently, until you forget it's there. That's when it strikes. That's when it catches you unarmed, unprepared, and begging for a second chance you'll never get. But if you can see through the trick, then silence becomes your greatest ally. Because once you understand that quiet isn't comfort, you stop wasting it, you use it. You sharpen your mind, strengthen your will, prepare your soul. You treat the stillness like borrowed time, because that's all it ever is. The chosen ones are the ones who recognize this. They don't beg for noise. They don't hide from stillness. They listen. They see the warning for what it is. They know that silence before chaos is not safety. It's the alarm bell ringing in a frequency most will never hear. Rest now, because soon rest will be a luxury you can't afford. That's the thing about time. It gives you glimpses of peace. Tiny windows where you can breathe, but those moments aren't permanent. They're fragile, fleeting. Temporary gifts before the storm swallows them whole. Most people squander them. They treat rest like something that will always be waiting for them, like a bed you can crawl back into whenever you like. But when the weight comes crashing down, when life demands everything you have, you'll realize rest isn't infinite. It's a privilege, one you won't always have the chance to claim. People think exhaustion is optional, like it's something they can avoid with enough shortcuts, with enough clever tricks. But when the storm rolls in, exhaustion doesn't ask permission. It takes you. It drags your body down, eats away at your spirit, and smothers you until you can barely stand. That's why rest matters now, in this fragile pocket of quiet. Because once the chaos hits, there will be no pausing, no catching your breath, no moment to stop and gather yourself. It will be movement, action, survival. And the ones who ignored their chance to rest will collapse first. You can see it in people's faces, the arrogance of those who think they'll never run out of strength. They waste their nights, mock the idea of preparation, laugh in the face of discipline. And then, when it's time to carry the weight, they crumble. They look for shortcuts, for ways to escape the demand. And when they realize there are none, they beg for the rest they once despised. But rest doesn't answer begging. Rest doesn't appear when you're drowning. You had your chance, and you wasted it. The wise ones see rest differently. They know it isn't laziness, it isn't weakness. It's a weapon. Rest sharpens the mind, strengthens the will, fuels the body. Rest now, and you'll have something to draw from when the world starts demanding everything at once. Neglect it, and you'll be hollow when it matters most. That's why the strongest, don't just train their bodies and minds. They master their ability to pause, to recover, to rebuild in silence. Because they know the battle ahead will not give them the courtesy of stopping. Think about the soldier who sharpens his blade before the fight, the runner who breathes deep before the sprint, the boxer who steadies himself before the bell. Rest is that pause, that preparation. The fight is inevitable, and if you waste the moment before it, you're already defeated. Most will laugh at the idea. They'll burn themselves out on meaningless things, only to discover that when it truly matters, they've got nothing left to give. It's funny, isn't it? People treat rest as if it's optional, like it's some luxury for the weak. But the truth is, those who deny themselves real rest become the weakest of all. They confuse motion with progress, exhaustion with accomplishment, chaos with meaning. But real strength doesn't come from endless motion. It comes from knowing when to step back, when to recharge, when to gather everything inside you, so that when the storm finally arrives, you won't be caught crawling. You'll be ready to strike. The cruel reality is that most people will only learn this lesson when it's too late. They'll collapse in the middle of the battle, gasping, wishing they had slowed down when they had the chance. But by then, the storm doesn't care. Life doesn't pause for your regret. It keeps moving, and if you can't move with it, you're crushed beneath it. That's why now, in this fragile window, rest matters more than ever. This moment of stillness, this pause, is not weakness. It's the last chance. You'll have to gather the strength you'll need when there are no breaks left to take. The calm is a countdown, not a gift. People love to dress up quiet moments as blessings, as if the universe suddenly decided to hand them peace out of generosity. But nothing is free, not even stillness. Calm isn't charity. It's a debt that will be collected. Every second of silence is borrowed, ticking down towards something larger, something heavier, something waiting to burst. Yet most live as if calm is endless, as if the clock isn't running, as if the silence isn't the breath before the scream. They mistake the pause for permanence, when in truth, it's only the fuse before the explosion. That's the mistake people make over and over again. They treat calm as comfort, when it's really warning. They feel the air grow still, the noise fade away, and they let themselves sink into it like a lullaby. But if you've ever watched the world closely, you know the calm has weight. It presses down, heavy, suffocating, because it knows what you refuse to admit. Something is coming, something big, and when it arrives, you won't get to ask for more time. The countdown will have ended, whether you're ready or not. Every storm has its pause. Every collapse has its quiet before the crash. That's the rhythm of life. Chaos doesn't just appear, it coils back first, gathering its strength, sucking the air out of the room, waiting for you to stop paying attention. That's what calm is. It's the inhale before the strike, the last few seconds you get before the floor caves beneath your feet. The question isn't whether you enjoy the calm. The question is whether you use it, whether you recognize it for what it truly is. The chosen ones don't waste the countdown. They see the calm for what it is, a test, a chance to gather themselves, to prepare, to sharpen every edge before the wave crashes down. They don't fall for the illusion of safety, because they know the stillness is the last mercy they'll be given before everything is demanded of them. But the masses, they sleep, they laugh, they relax too deeply, believing they've been spared. And when the calm breaks, and it always breaks, they find themselves naked, unarmed, scrambling in panic because they mistook the countdown for a gift. That's the cruelty of it. Calm is so convincing. It feels safe, it feels gentle, it feels eternal. But it's none of those things. It's a trick of time, a disguise for inevitability, like a clock ticking behind a wall, unheard until the alarm finally blares. You can ignore it, but ignoring doesn't stop the countdown. You can drown it in distractions, but distractions don't stop the strike. The silence keeps ticking, indifferent to your denial, leading you straight to the moment you swore would never arrive. And when that moment comes, the look on their faces, shocked, broken, betrayed, it's almost poetic, because they had the time, they had the calm. They had the countdown right in front of them, and they chose to see it as a gift. They wasted the only warning life gave them. That's why the storm doesn't pity them, why chaos doesn't hesitate when it tears through their illusions. They had their chance, they wasted it, and the countdown reached zero. But those who see through it, those who treat calm as the ticking clock it really is, they move differently. They don't rest too deeply. They don't let the silence fool them. They keep their eyes sharp, their senses alert, their strength ready. Because they know the calm is not here to save them. It's here to test if they're worthy of what's coming. And when the clock finally strikes, when the silence shatters, they don't collapse in shock. They rise. Because they knew the calm was never a gift. It was always the countdown. Those who waste the quiet will crumble in the storm. It's always the same story, again and again. People treat the quiet like it's some endless supply, like they've got all the time in the world to figure things out, to prepare, to sharpen themselves. They waste the silence on noise, on distractions, on things that rot their strength instead of building it. They don't see that the quiet isn't given as comfort. It's given as a warning, a fragile window, a borrowed moment before the world rips the ground from under them. And when the storm finally arrives, they're the first to break, not because the storm is cruel, but because they squandered the only chance they had to be ready. Look at how people live when the air is calm. They get lazy. They get soft. They fill the silence with laughter that doesn't mean anything, with words that don't carry weight, with comforts that dull their edge. They don't ask, why is it so quiet? They don't ask, what's coming next? They just soak in the illusion that calm will last forever. And so when chaos finally crashes in, they're blindsided, fragile, weak. They crumble because they never respected the silence enough to use it. The truth is, storms don't break people who are prepared. They break the ones who wasted their chance to prepare. You can always tell who took the silence seriously and who didn't. The ones who did, they stand firmer when the winds howl. They fight harder when the rain lashes against their skin. They adapt when the ground shakes beneath them. But the ones who wasted it, they panic, they scatter, they beg for mercy from a world that has none to give. The quiet was their mercy, and they threw it away. The quiet is a training ground. It's not there to lull you. It's there to give you space to sharpen your mind, to strengthen your resolve, to steel yourself for what's coming. If you ignore that, you're choosing weakness. You're choosing fragility. And when the storm arrives, don't expect it to go easy on you because you weren't ready. The storm doesn't care. The storm only reveals who you are. Strong or weak, prepared or careless, the storm doesn't decide. It exposes. But people are masters of self-deception. They think tomorrow will look like today, that the silence they feel now is proof that nothing will change. They cling to that illusion like a child clutching a broken toy. And when reality tears through their illusion, when the storm arrives and demands everything they never built, they collapse. They crumble, not because the storm is too strong, but because they never built the strength to endure it. They wasted the quiet that was meant to save them. The irony is that silence doesn't just protect you, it reveals you. If you can't sit in it, if you can't use it, if you run from it, you're already telling the world what you'll do when chaos comes. You'll break. You'll crumble. Because the storm isn't the test, the quiet is. The storm is just the result. It's the answer to how you used your silence, how you treated your calm, whether you respected the gift of time or spat in its face. And that's why so many fall apart. Because they thought they had more time. They thought the silence would stretch on forever. They thought they could waste it on distractions, on noise, on nothingness. They didn't realize that every second of quiet was a chance to build something inside of themselves. And when the silence ended, when the storm came, they had nothing left to stand on. They crumble, not because they weren't warned, but because they ignored the warning written in the stillness around them. Strength is built in stillness, not in panic. People think they grow strong in the middle of chaos, that the fire of the storm is what forges them. But that's not how it works. Panic doesn't build strength, it exposes weakness. Panic shreds discipline, it scatters focus. It turns even the sharpest mind into a trembling mess. No. Real strength isn't created when the storm is already tearing everything apart. Real strength is born in the stillness before it, when everything is quiet, when no one is watching, when you're left alone with nothing but yourself. That's where strength is forged. When you choose discipline over distraction, preparation over comfort, clarity over noise. Most people don't get that. They waste the stillness because it feels empty. They think silence means nothing is happening, so they fill it with whatever they can to feel alive. Endless noise. Meaningless entertainment, pointless chaos. They don't see that stillness is where the real battle takes place. It's not in the storm, it's in the quiet before it. That's when you decide who you'll be when the pressure comes. That's when you either sharpen yourself or dull yourself. That's when you build the foundation that will either hold firm or collapse under the weight of what's coming. It's easy to confuse panic with growth. People like to point at their scars and say, "That's when I became strong." But the truth is, the scars only show how much they suffered, not how much they grew. Growth happens in the silence, when no one is applauding, when no one is watching, when you put in the work and face the stillness without needing chaos to push you. Because panic doesn't create discipline, it strips it away. Stillness is what forces you to cultivate it. Think about the tree. It doesn't grow during the storm. The storm only tests it. The tree grows in silence, in patience, in stillness, roots digging deeper when no one sees. And when the storm comes, the strength isn't built in that moment. It's revealed. The tree doesn't suddenly become strong because of the wind. It stands because it already built its strength in stillness. People are no different. If you can't face the quiet, if you can't train yourself in silence, if you can't grow when everything is calm, you'll never stand when the storm arrives. But people run from stillness. They call it boring. They call it empty. They call it unbearable. That's because stillness forces you to confront yourself. It strips away excuses, noise masks. It leaves you with the raw truth of who you are, and most can't stand to see it. So they flee into panic, into motion, into chaos that makes them feel alive. But it's all an illusion. The chaos doesn't make them strong. It only distracts them from their weakness. And when the real test arrives, they have nothing to hold on to. The ones who understand the truth use stillness as a weapon. They don't run from it. They lean into it. They use the quiet to sharpen their minds, to strengthen their will, to dig deeper into the parts of themselves others are too afraid to face. They don't need chaos to wake them up. They wake themselves up in the silence. That's why, when panic tears through everyone else, they stand calm, unshaken. Because their strength wasn't built in panic. It was built in stillness. The irony is that everyone will face stillness eventually. Whether you embrace it or run from it, it finds you. The question is whether you'll use it or waste it. Will you sit in the silence and build? Or will you scramble to escape it, only to discover later that the storm doesn't care about your excuses? The stillness is the training ground, the forge, the preparation. Panic is just the test. And if you didn't build in the silence, you'll break in the storm.